I guess I'm going to have to hold this and do two things. I've got a little bit of a cold, so I'm going to use the mic, and if you see me sipping on some tea here, don't get too offended. Well, first of all, I wanted to say hold on to your seats. We're going to have some fun this morning. Now, if you could, hold your questions till the end. Virginia Beach, it's your city. You should care about what's happening in here. We've got a wonderful city. I think we've got the best city in the country and the best city in the world. Let's hit the next slide. According to the Wall Street Journal, we're ranked number 2 as the best city to raise a family.
I'm with you.
Okay, just want Jimmy's on top of it. He is the PowerPoint ranger. A lot of people can do PowerPoints, nobody as good as Jimmy, and I've had some colonels working for me that were awesome at it. Not as good as Jimmy. Well, we're keeping Oceana in our jobs, our government jobs. We want to make sure we continue to protect them. 45% of our GDP for Hampton Roads is because of the federal, state, and local governments. So we really need to understand that. Now, the other thing we're going to talk about this morning, and I'm going to digress into this, it's keeping business in business. We try to remain business friendly here in Hampton Roads. One of the things that John Moss, myself, a couple others have been talking about is eliminating the V-poll tax over the next 5-10 years, but making it more business friendly. We had a very important vote the other day on City Council about Virginia Beach Lifeguard Services, where we've had the VBLS, who had been working in the city for 82 years, basically guarding our beaches and Big Beach. And they did Sandbridge. We switched that over to EMS about a year ago, I think it was. But the good thing was that we kept VBLS doing lifeguard services at Big Beach, and hopefully for the next 82 years. They've done a great job. They're part of our history. They're part of our establishment. We need to keep them going. Our government should promote an active and healthy city, whether it's bicycling, running. We've got a couple of great 10Ks now, half marathons and marathons. And the Wicked 10K, we all know about the Rock and Roll Half Marathon. I mean, it is packed. And it replaced the old Greek Week. But for Halloween now, we have the Wicked 10K. The Wicked 10K last year brought, it was almost 10,000 people out, which is just over half of what the Rock and Roll Half Marathon brings out every year. And I think next year you're going to see even more people here for it. It's just, the race is just growing and growing and growing, telling you that people want to come to Virginia Beach, they want to have fun here, and they want good, clean fun. It's a gorgeous place to run, it's a great place to be, and everybody else is seeing that from Virginia to Delaware and all around. Every time we have a run here, I send out an email to my cousin who runs the Capitol Hill Running Club, so all the congressmen and their staff. And every time I send an email out, I'll usually get something back saying, hey, we're going to have 15 or 20 or 30 or 40 people coming down. So every time we do that, we make sure we recognize them, get VIP passes to the different events and everything that's going on that weekend. But we bring in our legislators from all over the country and their staff. It's a good thing. They like Virginia Beach. So this is the kind of things we can do to make sure we get folks, bring them back and make sure we continue with the good things about Virginia Beach. So let's talk about another reason why people come to Virginia Beach. The Atlantic Ocean, Chesapeake Bay. We've got great natural resources in here, from the environmental side to the waters. It's a great place to be, work, live. Chesapeake Bay and the Atlantic Ocean. We've got like 6 different fishing tournaments going on. The largest billfish tournament, we've got the largest striper tournament, and everybody who knows, if you went out striper fishing this year, most people hit their limit within 2 hours, and the boats were back in. That's unbelievable. So our boating industry and our fishing industry is a billion-dollar industry. What happens with that billion-dollar industry? They come here, they gas up, they have their boats repaired here, they buy tackle here, they buy all kinds of stuff here, they stay at the hotels, they eat at our restaurants. Hey, well, you know what? Maybe they bring their own fish in, but that's okay. That means they're catching it off the shore and they're eating it here. It's a good time, it's a good environment, it's Virginia Beach. We've got diverse parks, bike trails, walking trails, really family-oriented activities. All you have to do is get out there and explore. Boy Scouts are very, very active here, hiking through First Landing State Park, Back Bay. We've got great places to go. Heck, Boy Scouts come down to my farm and they qualify there for their rifle and their shotgun courses. It's awesome, their merit badges. We also have a world-class education system. 86.7% of our high school students graduate on time. That's unbelievable. 84.9% of our high school students go on to higher education. Colleges, universities, tech schools. That's awesome. Everybody should strive for numbers like this. 55.8% of our students earn advanced degrees, bachelor's, master's, PhDs. Again, it's something to be very proud of. We live in the best city in the world. Let's talk about our city government. We're comprised of representatives that are willing to roll up their sleeves and work for you. We're a city represented by the people, of the people, for the people. Now, to understand about our city government, you have your elected officials. We take an oath of office to protect the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of Virginia. We represent you. We have city employees. They do what's right for the city. They do what's in the best interest of the city. At times, they're in perfect parallel. Other times, they're in exact opposites. Okay? It's built that way for a reason. But every elected official should be having your best interests when they're up there fighting for you. Period. No ifs, ands, or buts. So let's talk about our history a little bit. We've got Cape Henry, First Landing, Civil War, World War II. Our World War II veterans, unbelievable. We've got one of them in the room today, Bill Mueller, right there. Pearl Harbor survivor, World War II veteran. The guy's a hero. And he wears some pretty sexy shirts at times too, with the flowers and everything, the Hawaiian shirts. Bill's the man. Our city government, what do we need to do? Federal, state, local level, at the federal government, state government, we're getting more requirements and less money. What do we need to do? At all three levels of government, we need to start cutting spending. We really have to cut spending. We can't continue on the path we have right now. It's unsustainable. If you notice at the federal level, we have a lot of jobs going over to China and foreign cities or foreign countries. What's the best way to fix that? Create the workforce here to do the jobs locally. We're doing that with our education system. Come up with a tax like they do in China with everything they export. Put a tax on it. It's okay if you want to have a multinational company. You know what? We're going to tax you for it. Just a little bit. 1% of your gross revenues. Bring it back to the United States. Invest back where you're headquartered. Invest back in a country that allowed you to build what you have. 1% only. We got to do something like that. One of these guys running for president should come out with something like that, I hope. Anyways, public safety. Core role and function of government. You've heard me say every time I'm up here, the #1 job of the city, the #1 role of the city, public safety. Protect the safety and security of its citizens, period. That's #1 role of government, #1 job of government. According to Harvey Bryant, beach police make up for 10% of the DUI arrests in the state of Virginia. 10%. We've got guys running that task force, Sergeant Scott Wichendahl, who's unbelievable. The guy knows more about how to pick up DUI folks. He knows more about which roads to target, and the guy's unbelievable. I've done a couple of ride-alongs with him. I'm pretty sure John Moss has done a ride-along with him, and as a matter of fact, was standing at one of the DUI checkpoints, and I was pleased enough to be able to drive through that DUI checkpoint. It was pretty neat. I saw John Moss standing out there with the police, shaking hands and talking to him and talking to the citizens. That's what it's about. But public safety is a core function of government, core role of government, our police, our fire, our EMS. And frankly, every year you hear me say, hey, they're our sacred cow. Don't cut their budget. And that's what I fight for every year. Don't cut their budget. Leave them alone. They've got a hard enough job. And as the economy gets worse, their job gets worse. Federal state dollars are drying up. Where will additional funds come from? Well, if you look at the federal government, if you look at the state government, we've got to create more jobs, not government jobs. We need to create private sector jobs. Private sector jobs are what gets this country running. What gets this country going. It's what establishes our environment, and that's what we're built on, capitalism. And also, Ashley McLeod from school board just walked in. So Ashley's in the house. NAS Oceana is a phoenix that rose above the ashes. The city and state program is a model for the entire nation. That's Admiral Zussman, Department of Defense Encroachment Management Program. with what we did with the encroachment issues around Oceana and correcting that from a remediation standpoint is literally being shared around the nation as the model of what communities should do and need to do. Virginia Beach was also named Active Base Community of the Year by the Association of Defense Communities 2010. We've got a great city. We've got a great environment to raise your families, start and grow a business, and let your business flourish. Again, as I said earlier, 45% of our GDP comes from defense spending. We've got to treat the Navy right. We've got to make sure we keep them involved with our decisions. And you know what? At times, that requires us to make things, to take a little bit more time with things. It may delay something 30, 60, 90 days, but it's worth it because we've got them on board and they're in our corner and they're on our side. And that's what we need to do. We need to keep them involved. We need to protect our environment. However, there's a true balance between protecting our environment, working with our natural resources, and meeting our energy needs. I'm a big proponent of offshore exploration of natural gas. Huge proponent of it. Why? Because I think it's one of the right things to do. With slant drilling and everything going on today, we've got a natural resource we can tap into. But we've got to do it responsibly, and we've got to do it working with the Navy. The Navy's already put their stakes in the ground saying, hey, stay out of our operational areas here. We've got plenty of places where we can do this, makes sense. And once you put a natural gas exploration going on in Virginia Beach, you'll see another $1 billion plus industry picking up here in Virginia Beach. It's a great thing. Excuse me. We're also home of our nation's finest soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines. And a lot of you know I come out of Navy Special Warfare. 16 of my 20 years were with Navy Special Warfare, and I loved every bit of it. We've got a lot of guys in the room who are retired military, a lot of them with Purple Hearts, a lot of them who are really war heroes, and the guys just everyday guys like you and I, sitting right here. Johnny right here, one of the first guys to clap, and look what's on his sleeve, Purple Heart. Unbelievable guys. So we've got guys, and guys, I got to tell you, we've got a bright future. We need to look up, look forward, and look what our future holds for us. We've got kids right over here working in the academies, smart as heck. Rainey's over here turning red and blushing a little bit. But man, these kids are smart, both of them. They're twins. Did you know they're twins? I'm just kidding, but both these kids are smart. They're out here today. They're here to listen to us. They don't want to hear us talk about doom and gloom. They want to hear us saying, hey, come back here once you're educated. We want to create a sustainable future for you, a sustainable environment. We want to look at things so we can keep and retain you in our future. We live in the best city in the world, and it's the best because of its people. It's people like you holding your elected officials accountable. Whenever we do something that's wrong, what's the first thing we hear from? You, the populace. Every time I get up here, what do I say? If you don't agree with something, call us. Not just call us, write us, every one of us, not just me or John Moss, Harry Dizell, Louis Jones, Rosemary Wilson. Call every one of us and tell us what you're thinking. Tell us what you're about. Tell us why you're upset with us. We're a government of the people, by the people, for the people. That's it. We're here to represent you. Don't let us ever forget it. So on this one, I'm going to come around and read this quote from the screen from John Kennedy. Thank you for your service. As we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter the words, but to live by them. John F. Kennedy. So, where do we go from here? We need lower taxes. Well, this year, I'd be happy if we can just keep this tax rate again at the same level it is without raising taxes or fees. It's going to be tough to do it this year. We've got a $90 million surplus. Oh, wait a minute. Last year, didn't we have about a $100 million surplus, and the year before that, 110?
Wouldn't that be a shortfall?
That's a shortfall. It's not a surplus, as you were. We have a shortfall again. But it's a shortfall from our projected budget on the 5-year budget and our budget last year. It's okay. We've overcome this in the past. We're going to overcome it in the future. $90 million is not that much when you're looking at a $1.8 billion budget. You know? We've seen the school board's budget this year. We've seen the Superintendent Merrill come out and say, hey, we've got a $40 million shortfall. Again, it's less than 0.5% of the overall budget. In any budget, we can find 0.5%. Any budget out there. And you see John Moss over there shaking his head because, you know, the Admiral comes to him and says, John, we've got to cut 2.5%. We need to be more efficient and don't lose any efficiencies, don't lose mission, and we still have to accomplish our goals, objectives, and mission. Figure out how to do it. And John will tell you, it's not easy, but we can do it. We don't need to raise taxes this time. Economic growth possibilities. I've been talking about the trifecta for a while. Medical, biotech, energy, and military or information technology. We've got the perfect environment for it. If you look at Princess Anne Commons, what's happening in the medical arena, we are just bursting at the seams, ready to grow down there. And the reason we're doing this, the reason for this, and the reason that we're going to be successful in this in the next 20 years is so we can take kids who get in the academy programs, are smart kids, we can get them educated with master's, PhDs, whether it's nuclear physicists, whether it's biotechnologists, whether it's biochemists and organic chemists. We want these guys to grow up, we want them to get super smart, come back here and help us grow our economy. Help us grow the future of Virginia Beach. We've got a great place to continue doing that. Our police, public safety do a great job. We must protect them in the budget process. I've always done that, and not just in the budget process, we must do it in legislation. Last year, one of the things that I helped push forward and the entire council got behind me unanimously was that when you shot the laser, you know the little lasers are out there, the green lasers and red lasers, it's crazy. When you shine that at a police officer's face before, it was a class 3 misdemeanor. Now it's a class 1 misdemeanor. You can go to jail. Pay $5,000 in fines and you can go to jail for, I think it's 6 months or a year. Unbelievable. You know, we've got to be more careful with this. We've got lasers right now, and at the beach, we're jumping on this right now. In the shops, for $30, you can get a green laser. They've got the little thing that's on the end of it that kind of makes it 15 or 20 different lasers. You screw that off, and you've got one single laser. It's green light, and it'll go about 3.5, 4 miles. You can actually, and that's line of sight, you can shine it up at a jet or a plane and blind the pilot of that. Barry Knight is pushing forward the legislation to lock that down this year. So these are things we've got to be careful of. Oh, and when they're advertised, they're like, yeah, spot, which is shining the laser on our police, on people, on cars, on jets. Hello, that's against the law. So we're looking at how to crack down on that now. Let's talk for a minute about, can you think of a better place to live, work, and raise your family than Virginia Beach? I can't. And I know a lot of us have the opportunity to move anywhere in the world we want. So I'm going to stay here. I've raised my family here. I've got one daughter who's a junior right now. And 2 years from now, she'll go away to college. And at that point, hopefully my son will be on his way back going to med school here. It's a great place to live. Isn't Virginia Beach worth a few hours of your time to get involved with your government, tell them how you think, what you want them to do, where you disagree with them, and do the right thing for the future of Virginia Beach and your future, because we're here for you. Well, what this is about today is Virginia Beach. We want to keep you here. We want to talk about a couple of things. And what makes Virginia Beach special is you, your involvement, your civic engagement, and holding your elected officials like me accountable and responsible. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up. And I'm going to open up the floor for questions. Anything you want to talk about. If I can't answer it, I'll write it down and get back to you. We've got members from school board, city council, here to help answer the questions if I can't. So, ready for questions. Jack.
Our other mic has a dead battery.
Take this one.
Okay.
It's more important for me to hear you and I can just speak up.
Who wants to talk? Here.
Thank you, Bill, for your talk. I wondered if you would mention your approach to private and public partnerships, what you think about them, how you think they work out in the city so far, what are the dangers, what are the promises, what do you think about them overall?
Yeah. Public-private partnerships. We've got good ones and we've got bad ones. The last one we had on our council agenda was the headquarter hotel. You'd be required to put $67 million in it, plus the price of the land, about another $3 to $5 million, plus $1.5 million a year. I didn't think it was a good public-private partnership. I didn't support it. John Moss didn't think it was a good public-private partnership. He didn't support it. Bet's House, that's a public-private partnership. I support it. Why? Hold it away from your bell, Chris. It's getting near the bell. Why? Because the city donated land and leased a house to Vet's House. They take homeless veterans in, they pay for everything, they get them off the street, they find them a job, they house them for 18 to 24 months, and they get them as productive members of society. And they do it without taxpayer dollars. That's a successful public-private partnership. That's what I support.
Bill, this is not a question, this is just a statement I wanted to say. Because of the amount of different business owners that come on my show on a weekly basis, when you made the statement, get involved and just call you, I can't speak for every member of City Council, but I have personally called you on behalf of several business owners in the last 2 years. And I just wanted everybody in this room to know I have never, ever seen a council person act as quickly, thoroughly, and passionately as Bill DeSteph to hand. And every single person was grateful for what you did. So I just wanted to thank you.
Chris, with his radio show, provides another opportunity for the community to call in and do different things. And about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, Chris and I started doing was I went to business communities when I was running for re-election. I said, hey, send me what job openings you have. I'm going to put them on my website. We're going to put them on Chris's radio show. And we'll give you another free opportunity for you to get out there without hiring a recruiter to get people funneled into you, good qualified people. And we started doing that. We filled, I know, well over 100 jobs, Chris. We had people calling in saying, hey, you know, Chris, I heard about the job on your show. I went to the job site. I think that was Geico or Merit Group, one of the two, maybe Steel. They went, they applied for the job, they got interviewed, they got hired, and here's somebody who was out of work for, I think he was 3 or 6 months, is now in a job where he's making $65,000 a year. That's pretty impressive. And again, you know, it's no sweat off my back. I just say, hey, I can put it up on my website. Chris can put it on his show and on his website. Next question.
Thank you, Bill.
Believe me, I won't get to mine.
Nice and loud, Gil.
Yeah, the question here is that you mentioned, and it's been said before, that the military is worth about 40–45% of the jobs and all the background goes on here. Unfortunately, with the economy the way it is, a boo-boo as the president for the moment, and everybody having the thought of cutting back on military spending simply because our obligations overseas are coming down, that we might lose some of that here. It would make sense, it seems to me, that perhaps City Council or the state ought to be looking at Virginia Beach to add jobs. We have some mighty fine hospitals here, so why should we have MRI machines built in Ohio and have to be shipped here instead of just building them here and putting them on the UPS truck and sending them over to the hospital? We have a lot of water around here. Ford Wellcraft and Bayliner, the boat manufacturers, Honda for motorboats and all that. We've got defense here. Chris Armory built 45 caliber firearms of an unusual design, got the eye of the military and the NRA, and they're right down the street.
CQB.
Where are the rest of them? What are we doing to wean ourselves off the defense money and trying to build up something else, a school, that kind of stuff?
Well, here's what we're doing. We've got active, and me personally, we've got, we're pretty active in the community, bringing new jobs here in a multitude of fashions. One, if you're looking at Princess Anne Commons in the way the medical community, TCC, ODU, if you look at the way that campus and environment is growing down there, it's done by dedications from the city, primarily of land, but also creating an environment that's beneficial for businesses to grow. If we were to cut the B poll tax out over the next 10 years, you would see businesses, more businesses, flourish to Virginia Beach. Not just from surrounding Hampton Roads Arena, but you would see it from all over the state and all over the country. I'm working right now with a local company, not local, but a guy drives 110 miles up to Richmond for his business. We're trying to find a place for him locally here, building and everything. I've been working with our economic development. I've been working with 3 banks, trying to find a building for him to move in. And we found a great house for him to live on the water. So, you know, we've got the first part done. We've got great schools for his family. He now has 2 kids. So he wants to live in Virginia Beach. He wants to raise his family here. So now we just have to find an appropriate building and environment for his business to move and relocate from Richmond down. Personally, I'm doing that. Other council members are working on the same thing. So we are doing that, Gil. As the part of the military is drawing down, we have other parts of the military expanding. Little Creek Fort Story has almost quadrupled a lot of the commands over there. They're now larger than Oceana was. Some of the within the community I used to belong to, that's doubled, almost tripled from when I retired in 2006. So we really are growing in specific areas as well. You know, as the federal dollars dry up, we're going to have to continue going out there, but the way to do it is cut business taxes, cut the B-poll tax. We've eliminated machinery and tools tax. What happened when we did that? Steel expanded again. 2 times in 1 year, they expanded. They're continually expanding. Why? Because it's a great place to live, work, and play. Next question.
Back here, Bill.
Okay?
Bill,
Yes,
thank you
sir.
very much. Very proud to call you my councilman. Very proud to do that.
Thank you.
There's a quick question I have for you. There's a new formula in the budget for schools. Can you explain how that new formula will affect our schools, and is there a light at the end of our tunnel?
What we're doing is we kind of threw the formula out this year. The city manager and the superintendent of schools got together and said, okay, based on this, here's what we're going to come up with for your pot of money this year from the city. Based on a couple of the revenue streams that they put this on, I think we added $2.3 million this year.
No.
To it. Yeah, actually we did. We added.
Gave back 2.2 just now, but you took away 5 million. So
Well,
keep moving on.
okay, let me explain it. The superintendent of schools, Jim Merrill, Jim Spohr got together and came up with a number. We found that real estate taxes were coming in a little bit higher. We adjusted that. We gave them another $2-point-something million. Now, what you have to understand is when we put money in, and the federal government and the state government gives money to the schools, the superintendent of school puts together a budget just like the city manager puts together a budget. He comes out, here's my recommended budget. Then it's up to the elected body to say, here's how we're going to spend that money. We don't go in and tell schools, buy iPads, buy smart boards, build this school, hire this many teachers, lay off this many people, do this, do that. We don't go and do that. You've got an elected body that is there to do that, okay? Bottom line, that's not our job. We are there to provide overall funding one way or the other. Same with the legislators. Other than unfunded mandates that are pushed down by the state, you know, we provide lump sum money. They come back. They used to have it where they could transfer money back and forth without approval from city council. 2-3 years ago, as a, I don't know, it was a
Punitive measure.
yeah, as a control thing or
It's a punitive measure.
punitive measure, however you want to put it. I voted against it. I've never voted to support taking money from the schools when they have a surplus. I've been the lone voice out there saying, if they save their money, they've been conservative, leave it with them, let them use it next year. So year after year, that's been. With that said, we're still city council as a group. Every year I still have to take responsibility for what the body itself has done and push and fight for everything. But we send them money, they spend it however they need. Right now the superintendent made a recommendation, here's my recommended budget. It's now up to school board to review that budget, make their recommendations and tweak it from there. City council does the exact same thing. We'll get the city managers. Every year in the past, police, fire, EMS, he's always cut 2 of the 3. That's one of the first things on there. First thing I always go back fighting, police, fire, EMS, public safety, don't mess with it. So every year it's the same thing. Every year we have between 300 and 500 open positions. We had 480 people retire from city service last year, retire or leave service. Next year, fill half the positions. That's it. Right there you'll save $17.5 million. I don't know how many people retired from school systems. I've asked the number. I think Ashley's helped me ask that number. But I've asked how many people left school service and for what reasons. Haven't gotten that number yet. But as soon as we do, you know, those are the things that, you know, that's where you have cost savings. It's cost savings through attrition. But we as your elected officials have a pot of money, we get a recommended budget. It's our job to stand up and lead and do what we believe is right and in the best interest of you. Okay? On the school's budget, I don't control it. If I did, You could come talk to me about every bit of their budget too, but I don't. I'd be happy to. We have school board members who do. Next question. Noni. Thanks for coming out, sir. Noni Abrahama, folks.
I guess everybody knows about this issue regarding the dome site, and it's been in the papers. And it seems that the city council has been toying around the improvement of that old dome site, and been mentioned about the private-public partnership. What is the latest scope on that one right now?
Okay, I asked that question 2 weeks ago. John Moss still here? He was with me when we asked the question. We were told that there's discussions, but nothing solidified. So we're not willing to brief City Council until we have some kind of a deal that's a little more formidable. City Council liaisons to that are Louis Jones and John Earn, so they're working that deal. We've asked, just like on the hotel deal, I've asked continuously through the process to find out what's going on, and I've always been told, well, we'll tell you once we get it to the point. This is another one of them. I've heard through the press, through the newspapers, just like you, that $40 to $60 million public-private partnership. I don't know the details of it. I don't have any more than what's in the newspaper. I've asked for the information and not received it. So as soon as I know, you'll know. Next question. Let's get the school kids over here, and then we'll come to RK. Or RK, then school kids?
Yeah,
All right,
because he's got the mic.
okay. Well, he's got gray hair, too. I want to get some younger folks.
I'll be over there.
Thanks, Bill. Bill, over the years, I've struggled with public-private partnerships. I know there were supposed to be some studies that are out there that are comparing how these partnerships are comparing or competing with the private sector. Now, I've been in business 30 years coming up, and I'm at the oceanfront, and every time we do a public-private, when you build a restaurant, when you build a retail space, and you fund the project with public money, it competes with all of us. Now, the oceanfront, people don't know this, is dying on the vine. We're 36% down in room rentals in the last 11 years. We're spending twice the money we did 11 years ago to make less money than we ever did. And then we continue to engage in business opportunities that pick and choose winners or losers. Now, I want to know when the city council is going to step up. Obviously, I'm running for mayor for a reason, that stop this nonsense. And have any studies been done to show the income that's been taken away from the private sector with these partnerships?
Well, first of all, it's not the government's job to compete with private industry. It's not the government. On those public-private partnerships, if you look at them, you'll notice that I have not supported them. Why haven't I supported them? Because it's not the government's job to compete with private industry. Now, there are some public-private partnerships that will make sense. We've got to do a cost-benefit analysis. The bottom line is, we live in the best city in the world, period. I'm proud to say that I'm here because I love it. I'm involved in government because I want to make it a better place for the future. Public-private partnerships where they make sense, like Vet's House, where they make sense, like there's a new Ronald McDonald type hospice house coming online. The city's going to dedicate 3 acres. They've got $3.5 million to build a house and do all that. That stuff makes sense. That's what we should be doing. It's not competing with private industry. Okay? Where we're building a convention center hotel with a gym that's paid for by taxpayer money that you and I will never be able to use, or a swimming pool that we'll never be able to use unless we check into the hotel, it doesn't make sense. It just flat doesn't make sense. So I'm going to continue speaking out against it publicly. I'm going to continue writing up things and sending it to entire groups of people so they can put their spin on it and send it out further so they can take it and say, hey, this is the wrong thing. But that's why I said during my presentation 4 times, during my talk 2 or 3 times, it's a government of the people, by the people, for the people. Get off your butts. Get involved. Tell us what you're thinking. We're elected to represent you. We're not hired. We take an oath of office. The city manager and his staff don't take an oath of office. We do. We're here to protect the Virginia Constitution. We're here to protect you, the citizens, protect the U.S. Constitution. It's my job. Okay?
But the studies, has anybody done a study that compares?
Here's the deal. We've got a couple of studies on the public-private partnerships. I don't believe in them. I don't believe in them for 2 reasons. Just like the convention center. We look year over year. We use ODU to tell us what the revenue stream is. Okay? how much money we're making. It starts going down. We don't like what we're seeing. So we change the way we're looking at it to make it look like it's going up. That's not what we're here for. So we point things out like that. Chuck Smith just entered the room. That's not our role. When we have a valid study that's truly across the board and something we can weigh our hats on, then I'll come out and say, yeah, we've got a study. We can put our hats on and say, this is a good study. Then, okay, I'll come out and say, we've got a good study for public-private partnerships. Until then, every single one of the studies I've seen, I've disagreed with. It's slanted toward one side. I just don't agree with stuff like that. So, what do? I hear from you. I put the study out there. I pick it apart. And I say, I can't support it because of this reason or this reason or this reason. That's it. That's all we can do. If enough other members of council jump on the bandwagon, great. We stop it from happening like the Convention Center Hotel. I'll tell you, John Moss and I, Robert Dean, let's see, there's 4 or 5 other people in this room, Jimmy Frost, folks got involved and helped us pick apart this thing. Beth Allen helped us pick apart this thing and say, hey, you got to look at this and this and this and this. And that's where we really spent a lot of time digging out the details and saying, hey, this isn't right. We knew a lot of the stuff wasn't right, but it took people like Beth Allen, Robert Dean, Jimmy Frost, folks like that, John Moss. It took us, to dig through this ourselves. Heck, I spent it from Virginia Beach General with my mom in the hospital. I spent calling the different associations and saying, hey, is the reason you really didn't come to Virginia Beach because we don't have a convention center hotel? And if that's the case, how come you're coming here next year when we won't have one? And then the Association of Southern
Smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, the Association of Southern Farmers or Agricultural something working group. I asked the lady, she goes, heck no, we're never coming to the East Coast with you Yankees. We're down here in Arkansas. If we ever go anywhere, we've been in Arkansas for 26 years since the establishment of that organization. She goes, if we ever go anywhere, it'll be Texas or Oklahoma. We're not going on the other side of Mississippi. My boat won't go across that. You listen to stuff like that, and then you have to question it. And again, that's where you get data. You have to question that data and try to assimilate it and do the right thing. Now, I'd like to hear from our students over here.
Every day, I get up at 4:30 in the morning and get on a bus that comes to my stop at 6, and I arrive at Bayside at 6:50. So I have about an hour-long bus ride, pretty much. But I want to know, how would you let the school board cut transportation for kids going to and from school at the academies instead of cutting back on some of the after-school activity buses?
Wow.
All right. That's definitely a school board question. I'd be happy to call one of them up here. Well, I will tell you that. What's that?
I'll take that question, Bill.
Okay, but city council doesn't make the decision of what programs to cut or not, whether we're going to spend $14 million on smart boards or $10 on chalk. We don't make those decisions. So let's have our school board folks answer that.
One of the things I'll let you know, this impacts my family too. My kids both ride those buses, so I totally understand where the parents are coming from. I'm going to say my back's up to you. That's one of the things on the budget, and Patrick and I both brought the copy of the superintendent's estimate of needs, and anyone's welcome to look forward to it. But the kids are right, and that's one of the things we're hearing the most of. I have no beef with Bill. Bill, I know, and John are going to go to bat, and Harry was here. I don't know where he went to. Harry's always been very pro-education as well. But one of the things the moms and dads are going to get together. You see it in private schools. All the mommies get together and they make sure they get all their kids in carpools and they get them where they need to. I'm not worried about those kids for the academies. Your mom will make sure it happens. I'm worried about our lower socioeconomic kids who mom doesn't have a car. So I think I probably speak for Patrick. I hope I'm speaking correctly, but this is one of the ones from the budget of the suggestions the superintendent has given that I'm going to fight for. One of the things that's so important, and if I can hijack your talk for just a second, Bill, this has not been approved. These are simply, there is a $39 million shortfall. This is where the CFO and the superintendent came up with the numbers to balance that 39 shortfall. This is what they're saying. This totals, these match. These are the things that we can eliminate. Now we have to start rehashing all of that. So it's very, very important that we help the public understand that these are not done deals. John is very good. He is forwarding every response he gives to the people that send him an email. He's forwarding it to us, and we appreciate that. But he's trying to make that clear. Bill's right. It's our responsibility to ultimately decide what the cuts are. What I hope is that with this also comes a list of, here we made these cuts, but boy, if you could come up with this $20 million, here is what we would put back in. And John and Bill fought for a needs-based budget from us. That means we don't want to follow the formula anymore, but we want to take care of what you need. So he is trusting Patrick and I and Sam and the others that Scott here today, trusting us that we're sending them a budget that really is what we need. And we've gone through with a fine-tooth comb. So I hope that we get that, but then I hope that then Bill and the others will fight for that additional funding so that we don't have to cut things like that. All right? I'm going to look at you.
And again, we're given, like they're given from the superintendent of schools a budget, we're given the same thing from the city manager with our budget. First thing that's going to be on that list, if we don't direct otherwise, is cut police and fire. Our job is to go in there and prioritize the things in that budget. Do we really need to spend $380,000 on these blow-up things we put in our pools? Or would I rather spend that $380,000 on 10 more police officers, or actually 8 more police officers? I'd rather spend them on 8 more police officers. Patch that sucker up with duct tape and get over it. We're not there to compete with the YMCA or private pools. Again, these are exact examples that we've had in the past that I've fought for. And again, I'm not afraid to say it. You know, in my my city council agenda is we're moving from what do you call it? What's the fund that you guys use for teachers and instructional funds? We're moving $2-point-something million from instructional funds to technology. So I don't ask them, hey, why are you doing this? Why don't you keep your teachers here? They've got their reasons for doing everything. So we give them the authority and responsibility to handle within their budget how to take care of everything. If something like that's important to you, and I know it's important to at least 500 people because I've gotten over 500 emails in one little folder right now, and Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week, I've drafted a response on all of these, and it's not, it's not a smart aleck response that I'd really like to send. It's not, it's the truth. It is. It talks about budget priorities and says we have an elected school board who will move forward and make the decisions and cut what needs to be cut, but City Council has no authority or responsibility over the school board's budget. They're an elected body to create and handle their own budget. Okay, what we do is we fund that budget, but we don't say, hey, spend $40 million on this school or $180 million on this school. We don't say any of that stuff.
Bill, let me clarify something. You've mentioned buildings several times. That's a separate budget
It's
than
your
our
CIP
operating
budget. That's
right,
correct.
exactly. So don't get people confused that building comes out of the operating budget. We're talking specifically about the operating
It's CIP,
budget.
but on CIP,
Yes.
you can
Right,
make a decision of replacing an air conditioning or doing, I don't know, playground equipment. It's
I just
up
wanna
to
make
you
sure
guys.
it's clear.
We don't tell you how to do it. Just like in our budget, they don't tell us what to do with our budget. Well, actually they do. They say, please give us more money, but
Yes.
we do the same thing.
Yeah.
Please give us more money.
Hey, Bill, this is Kipsville here. What's going on at Kipsville and Princess Anne intersection there?
Well,
Quite a development there.
it's, there's 2 or 3 different things. I think you're referring to the one that has a new big gazebo.
No, the road construction.
Yeah.
Water lines and whatever.
It's road, water, sewer. Yep.
Church is really getting stiff on that.
Yeah, we're working, John and I sat down with the church. We came up with one thing. We sat down with the city attorney. We sat down with the church. We sat down with the city attorney. That was probably going to be resolved in court. And if it goes to court, flip a coin, but I believe the church will win. So that's what I believe. But that's part of it. There's another one where there's a piece of land. The citizens want it to be a park. They want, other folks want development on it. That's where we have the community meetings to get input from the community to say, hey, here's what we want. Here's how we want it used. There's another piece that I think is 8 or 10 acres, 12 acres, and they're looking at putting 245 condo type townhouse type community in that. We've had about 30 people say, hey, we support this. We've had about 300 say we're against it. That goes into a property rights issue. I think I looked at what they could do by right on that, and there's a historic school on there, which is really not really a historic school. It's an old school that probably needs to be recycled brick. But so truly on that, it's still in the community phase where we're getting input from everybody. Everybody's saying what they like or what they don't like. The big thing on that is you have certain council members who want to save the school or want to destroy the school or do this or do that. Heck, ask John. We're sitting here listening to what the community wants. And again, we are a government of the people, by the people, for the people. Hold us accountable. I'm going to listen to you on that. You know, the neighbors are the ones who are going to stand up and tell us what they want. Right now, I can tell you there's nothing hard and fast. By right, they can build X number of units there. We're not going to stop them. Bob.
Good morning. I'd like to go back to the military expenditures for just a moment. In a meeting about a week ago with an ODU professor downtown, gave indication that the military would be decreasing spending in this area next fiscal year. And that before the votes move.
October 2012.
Okay, you may have been at the meeting. At any rate, one of the important point here is he suggested that it could be as much as a reduction of $4 billion expenditures in the Hampton Roads area. So pertinent to Virginia Beach, what percentage would that be probably in Virginia Beach? And most important, what would be the reduction in tax receipts due to that loss of revenue?
That's when you're going to have to email me, Bob, because his comment is $4 billion in Hampton Roads. I don't know what the piece of Virginia Beach that impact would be, so I'm going to have to break that down for you. Your other question was, what does that do to our tax base and our revenue streams? Again, I'm sure there's a formula of every $1 billion the government spends, what that means on the other side. I'd have to get that and break it down specifically for Virginia Beach and get back to you. But email me that, and I'll provide you a response. That's one that I don't think any council member can stand up and give you that exact number. Not even John Lawson. He's pretty good with numbers.
On that point, the multiplier effect.
Thank you, John.
DeSteph?
Sir.
I have two questions for you. Where do we stand on the constitutional amendment as far as those resolutions that you and John brought forward and then Glenn Davis and Rosemary Wilson brought forward? Second question, the proposed resolution to direct the city manager to bring in a tax and fee neutral budget is the brainchild, of course, John Moss and yourself. How refreshing. Do you expect that you will get 6 votes to direct the city manager to bring in that type of budget? Because forewarn him, Suffolk told the city manager there the same thing. He didn't do it, and they let him go.
Well, even if our city manager doesn't do it, I don't think we've got the testicular veracity to fire him. No other way to put it. I do. I'll be vote number 1. John will be vote number 2. I think we've got 4 votes right now, John, on the resolution in support of. We're going to split it up and call around and see if we can get more. I'll probably take the easy ones like the mayor, Barbara Henley. I don't mind. But let's hit the constitutional amendment. I was down in Richmond on that. John and I put something forward on the constitutional amendment saying we support the constitutional amendment. Clear, easy, any fourth grader understood what we said. Mr. Davis and Rosemary Wilson had something that they ran through VML and some others, and it was very confusing. It said it had to mirror these 2 bills, which would require a change to the constitutional amendment. Then they used a word. What was the word they used on that?
Effectuating.
Effectuating, that it would have to, effectuating on. And again, these are terms that lawyers use to argue. But basically, it would require a change to the constitutional amendment, which is no more than the death sentence to property rights in 2012 and 2013. Why do I say that? Because if you change that constitutional amendment, it has to remain the same, paragraph for paragraph, word for word, punctuation point for punctuation point. If you change that, it's got to go through another election cycle or 3 years before it gets passed. The good thing is we've got a General Assembly who is motivated not to let anything change that constitutional amendment. They'll work out the details and the definitions and the coordinating Senate and House bills, but they will not make any change to the constitutional amendment itself. I talked to Mr. Davis about it at the breakfast after this one last 2 weeks ago. I talked to him publicly, privately, and on the phone, and said, Glenn, it's really easy. If you want it to be confusing, and if you want the constitutional amendment to change, then leave it as it is today, or write it however you want. If you want it to be clear as day and understood by anyone, write it this way. We support the constitutional amendment, and we support the Senate bill and House bill that further define the terms within there that everybody's fighting about. We support the constitutional amendment, and we support these others. Not effectuating on, not it must mirror, not, none of the lawyer stuff. Easy, clear speak, period. And John will tell you, and the resolution John wrote, it was eloquent, it was written by somebody who has, the intellectual ability of, astronauts. I said, John, we got to make this so anybody can understand it. I'm going to write it so somebody like me, who barely has a 6th grade education, can understand it. So I crossed out a bunch of it, made it very simple, very easy to read, and John was like, you're right, Bill. We need to write this act so anybody can glance through this thing and understand it right off, period. And I've done that on a lot of legislation over the last 3 years. I'm working with 2 of our judges to do that on another section of our legislation. And whatever we can do to make it clear, concise, to the point, easily read, easily understood. Certainly I can write it confusing, but it just creates arguments and creates lawyers getting involved. So on this, Mr. Davis, it's his opportunity to come back Tuesday and clarify this and make it so easy that we support this or not. And I know that he came and said, I have a letter from Senator Obenshain stating that he supports it. Well, Senator Obenshain, once he heard from some of the citizens, came out and said, hey, if you say you support the constitutional amendment and you support my 2 bills, great, I'm behind you. If you make it confusing, I am not behind you, and sir, I arguably have to say I disagree. And again, that's why we need clear, concise legislation. When we say we support something, we support it. We're for it, we're against it, we're against it. Make it clear, make it concise, make it so anybody can understand it. If you want to make words like effectuating in there that lawyers are going to argue or say, this should mirror, or this will mirror, or this must mirror, make it clear. This will mirror, this won't mirror, this will be the same, it won't be the same. I support it, I don't support it. As clear as day, because we are a government of the people, for the people, by the people. You don't elect me to confuse you. That's the last thing you want. We live in Virginia Beach, the greatest city in the world. Why? Because we make it that way. We hold our elected officials accountable, and we want it to be that way. That's why we do it.
Last question.
Yes, sir.
I've been told that some of the 5 of the restaurants at Town Center, their rent is subsidized by the city or by the EDA. Is that correct?
I don't know about 5 of them. I know that Dick's Sporting Goods, which is now Sports Authority. I think Sports Authority, right? No, it's Dick's now. It was something else.
It was, yeah.
It was, okay, it's still Dick's. I know that they're one that was for a number of years, and I know one of the other restaurants was for a number of years, but to be honest with you, if you send me that email, I'll find out what restaurants, what the rent should be, which is $18, $19 a square foot, and what they're actually paying, and see what that subsidy is, and I'll put it out to everybody. But please send me that in an email, because that's, again, one of the ones I don't have off the top of my head. Thank you very much.